This video supports the Wildtracks proposal, helping secure the future for Belize's iconic manatees. Wildtracks is a conservation organization that was established in 1990 and registered as a non-profit organization in 1996. Major landmarks include the establishment of the Manatee Rehabilitation Center in 2000, at the request of the National Manatee Working Group. In 2010, Wildtracks started a long-term collaboration with the Forest Department to address the illegal trade in wild primates, with the establishment of the Primate Rehabilitation Center. This year, Wildtracks is launching its new capacity building program, targeted at strengthening conservation outcomes in Belize. Wildtracks has been consistent since then in strategy implementation towards its vision and mission of the sustainable future of the natural resources of Belize, through conservation of ecosystems and species, building engagement and strengthening capacity towards effective environmental stewardship at all levels. At its core, Wildtracks aligns all its actions to contribute towards implementation of the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan Goal C. Functional ecosystems and viable populations of Belize's biodiversity are maintained and strengthened. Over the last 30 years, Wildtracks has worked to strengthen conservation and biodiversity outcomes, collaborating with the Belize government and protected area partners to ensure robust plans are in place for effective management at local, landscape, seascape, and national levels. It has also promoted an increasing focus on species conservation planning, working with the Forest Department to develop the first national red lists for birds and mammals. Its species conservation subprogram is supported by the strategic rehabilitation and reintroduction of endangered species. Wildtracks implements its activities under three program areas: biodiversity conservation, capacity building, and engagement and outreach. This project falls under the biodiversity conservation and capacity building programs. Wildtracks has been contributing to local and national strategies that strengthen long-term viability of Belize's manatees for over 22 years. It aligns its work with the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, National Manatee Recovery Plan, the 2021 National Assessment of the Status of Manatees, and an internal theory of change model that identifies key intervention points for the organization. These include manatee rehabilitation. Manatee rehabilitation is a conservation tool that is integrated into the wider Wildtracks toolkit of species and protected area conservation strategies. Strengthening ecosystem and species protection in protected areas, strengthening legislation and policy, as well as enforcement, and improving public awareness and engagement. All are needed to manage a species effectively. The project has two objectives. The first is to strengthen management capacity for species conservation in key protected areas. The second is to ensure that rescued manatees can return to the wild through strengthening the facilities for manatee rehabilitation. But why is it important to strengthen the conservation of manatees in Belize? Why should the BFSF invest around $147,000 in this project? The Antillean manatee is rated as globally endangered, and the most recent IUCN draft assessment suggests that at the current level of decline, it may become critically endangered in another 2 generations. The regional population extends from the Gulf of Mexico down to Brazil and out to the Caribbean islands, but is fragmented, with 4 isolated subpopulations. Of these, Mexico, Belize and Guatemala are the only countries that provide contiguous habitat. Our regional subpopulation is estimated at around 1,600 individuals, with most of these in Belize. This makes Belize the regional and global stronghold for this subspecies. Belize may be the stronghold, but there has been an alarming increase in the number of manatee strandings from 2011 onwards, animals that are either dead, injured, or orphaned. This is also reflected in the number of injured and orphaned manatees being rescued and brought in for rehabilitation. Over 70% of records where the cause of death has been verified are as a result of watercraft collision, with a further 17% identified as dependent calves separated from their mothers. Whilst manatee strandings occur all over Belize, the majority occur in the waters around Belize City and in the Belize River. This area has always been important for manatees, which need to access fresh water every 10 days or so, by entering the Belize River. This area also has the highest level of boat traffic in Belize, with water taxis from San Pedro and Key Corca, and day tours traveling up the Belize River. With the increasing number and size of boats, this makes this area high risk for any manatee. At the current rate of mortality, the manatee population in this critical area will crash, with significant impact on the national population. This is also reflected in the increasing number of injured and orphaned manatees arriving at Wildtracks. The protected areas are becoming increasingly important as a key national strategy for ensuring manatees do not become critically endangered. The first objective will strengthen the capacity of protected area managers, through the provision of core conservation skills trainings in strategy development, project management and grant writing for conservation. The courses are offered under the Capacity Building Programme through a partnership with the UK-based non-profit organisation Wild Team. Wildtracks is currently running the pilot courses, with very positive feedback from participants drawn from protected area NGOs and government departments. A call for participants will be targeted at the managers and management authorities of 8 key and 4 secondary protected areas, as well as organizations involved in effort to protect manatees in Placencia Lagoon. Activity 1.2 links the theory to practical work focused on the development of at least 3 site conservation plans, developed through a series of virtual training workshops, and the drafting of at least 3 grant proposals for the implementation of key strategies identified in the plans. The second objective ensures that rescued manatees continue to have the opportunity to contribute to the wild population through support of rehabilitation and release. This objective has 2 outputs. The first is the strengthening of the manatee rehabilitation facilities at Wildtracks through replacement of the current building, with a purpose-built facility that will better support the ongoing manatee rehabilitation work. The second is the continued successful return of manatees to the wild. Wildtracks has managed the Manatee Rehabilitation Center activities for 22 years, with the addition of facilities as needed, including an intensive care pool for stabilizing the health of incoming calves. A series of pools of increasing size, a recovery pool and 2 large pools, help house and manage larger animals as they move through the different stages of rehabilitation. Manatees are introduced to the lagoon enclosure to familiarize them with the natural environment, providing a larger space connected to the lagoon. They then go through soft release, during which they enter the soft release lagoon and learn to be wild. During this time, they are tracked using satellite tags and monitored by drone. Information from both is used to ensure they have been able to locate foraging areas. In the early weeks of soft release, they are still provided with supplemental food once a day to check them to ensure they are increasing in weight and condition, before they move to the release stage. The release site is on the east coast of the Corozal Bay Wildlife Sanctuary, an area with manatee holes where wild manatees gather, adequate seagrass and access to fresh water, as well as very little human and boat presence. Corozal Bay is managed by Wildtracks partners, Satanihar Alliance for Conservation and Development, and has a high level of management effectiveness, keeping the newly released manatees safe. Wildtracks has been able to release 14 manatees back into the wild, with a 100% first-year survivorship. For manatees are still in rehabilitation or soft release and moving through the process. For a species on the edge, every animal makes a difference. We have been able to achieve this largely through our current blended financial sustainability mechanisms, but we are hopeful that BFSF will be able to assist with the larger investment in the badly needed replacement facility. Manatee conservation is a team effort. Our dedicated team of Belize and international volunteers ensures that manatees in rehabilitation have the care they need, and we work closely with others who rescue manatees across Belize, those who monitor and protect manatees through management of key manatee areas, and those who reach out to the next generation to ensure they become manatee stewards. The Rehabilitation Center is managed under a Memorandum of Understanding with the Fisheries Department. Through this project, we can strengthen our conservation outcomes towards ensuring that manatees continue to thrive in Belize's coastal waters, today, and into the future. Thank you.